Winning isn't just about crossing the finish line first. It's not just about holding the trophy or hearing your name shouted in victory. The art of winning begins long before the applause, long before the recognition, long before anyone else even knows your name. It begins in the unseen moments, in the silence of your room, in the choices you make when no one's watching. Winning is a state of mind before it ever becomes a result. The truth is, winners are not born, they are created. They are sculpted by struggle, sharpened by failure, fueled by hunger. Most people think winning is about talent or luck, but the real secret is discipline, obsession, and the relentless refusal to quit. It's waking up when you don't feel like it. It's pushing when your body screams stop. It's silencing that inner voice that says it's okay to give up, and replacing it with try again one more time. That's where the art lives, inside that decision. Winning requires a shift in identity. You cannot win with the same mindset that has kept you stuck. You have to become someone different, someone stronger, someone more focused. If you want extraordinary results, you must demand extraordinary standards of yourself. Stop settling for average. Stop negotiating with your excuses. Winners don't negotiate with weakness. They conquer it. They train their minds to see opportunity where others see obstacles. They train their hearts to keep beating with courage even when fear whispers lies. The art of winning is not about never losing. It's about using every loss as a lesson, every setback as fuel, every failure as a stepping stone. The ones who master winning are the ones who get knocked down 100 times and rise 101. They see defeat not as the end, but as the beginning of a greater version of themselves. That resilience, that fire, that unstoppable spirit, that is what separates those who wish from those who achieve. You must ask yourself, how badly do you want it? Are you willing to pay the price in sweat, in focus, in sacrifice? Are you willing to say no to comfort so you can say yes to greatness? Because winning costs something. It demands your full heart, your relentless energy, your refusal to live small. And when you finally align your purpose with your actions, when you commit fully, when you burn the boats and leave no plan B, that's when you discover the art of winning. Winning is not an event. It's a lifestyle. It's a decision you make daily to show up as your best self, to give more than you thought possible, to believe in yourself even when no one else does. And when you live this way, when you embody this art, victory is not just possible, it's inevitable. Winning starts in the mind before it shows up in reality, because everything you create in life is first born in your thoughts. Every achievement, every breakthrough, every dream turned into reality, it all began as an idea in someone's mind, a belief that it was possible before the evidence existed. The mind is the birthplace of victory, and the way you train it will determine the results you experience. Think about it. No one ever stumbles into greatness by accident. They create it, and they create it twice. First mentally, then physically. If your thoughts are small, your results will remain small. If your beliefs are limited, your actions will never reach their full potential. But when you begin to condition your mind to think in terms of possibilities instead of limitations, everything shifts. You start to see opportunities where others see obstacles. You begin to act with courage where others freeze with fear. And you tap into levels of strength and creativity you never thought you had. Most people lose the battle before it even begins, not because they lack the skills, but because they have already convinced themselves they can't win. They walk into situations doubting their abilities second, guessing their worth, carrying the weight of their fears and failures, and then they wonder why they fall short. The truth is, your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. If your mind is filled with self, doubt, hesitation, and negativity, your actions will mirror that energy. But if your mind is filled with certainty, clarity, and an unshakable belief in your capacity to win, then your actions will carry a power that others can't ignore. That's why the greatest battles are not fought in stadiums or arenas. They are fought in your own head. The competition is not just out there, it's within you. The question is, which voice are you feeding? The one that says you're not enough, or the one that says your unstoppable training the mind to win is not something that happens by chance. It is a practice, a discipline, a way of life. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your beliefs. If you believe deep down that you're destined for mediocrity, you'll always find a way to prove yourself right. But if you condition yourself to believe that you're capable of greatness, that belief becomes a force that pulls you forward, even when circumstances push against you. That's why affirmations, visualization, and mental conditioning are not just motivational gimmicks. They are tools to rewire your brain, to strengthen your self-image, to create certainty before results ever show up. Champions see themselves winning before they win. They walk into the game already victorious in their minds. They have rehearsed success so many times mentally that by the time the moment comes, it feels inevitable. They aren't hoping to win, they expect to win because they've already won inside. But let's be clear, this isn't about pretending everything is perfect or ignoring challenges. The art of winning in the mind is about facing reality with a higher standard of thought. It's about acknowledging the obstacles but refusing to bow down to them. It's about holding the vision so strong in your mind that no setback can steal it from you. When most people encounter failure, they label themselves as failures. Winners think differently. They may fail, but they don't internalize it. They see failure as feedback, as a signal to adjust and grow, not as a definition of who they are. That difference in mindset creates a massive difference in outcomes. Because the one who sees failure as the end will stop, while the one who sees failure as the beginning will rise stronger and keep moving. Winning in the mind means learning to interpret experiences in a way that empowers you instead of paralyzes you every time you think a thought. You strengthen a pattern in your brain. Think thoughts of weakness, and you reinforce weakness. Think thoughts of strength, and you reinforce strength. Your mind is like a garden. Whatever you plant grows. If you plant seeds of fear, doubt, and insecurity, you'll reap a harvest of hesitation and regret. If you plant seeds of confidence, resilience, and vision, you'll reap a harvest of courage and achievement. That's why protecting your mind from negativity is critical. Who you spend time with, what you feed your brain with, the conversations you entertain, the media you consume, all of these are shaping your mental blueprint, and that blueprint is what determines your results. If you want to change your life, you must first change your mental environment. Guard your mind like your most valuable treasure, because it is. Everything else flows from it. When you begin to truly master your mind, you step into a different reality. Suddenly, fear doesn't control you the way it used to. Pressure doesn't break you, it sharpens you. Challenges don't crush you, they awaken you. The power of a mind trained for victory is unstoppable because it no longer waits for perfect circumstances. It creates them. Instead of reacting to life, you begin to direct life. Instead of asking, "Can I win?" you declare, "I will win." That shift in mental language from doubt to certainty, from hesitation to decision, is the birthplace of all great victory. Winners don't just hope for success. They command it with the strength of their belief and the persistence of their actions. And so, if you want to master the art of winning, start by mastering your mind. Train it to focus, to believe, to envision, to condition certainty where doubt used to live. Because before you ever hold the prize in your hand, you must first hold the vision in your mind. And once you've won there, reality has no choice but to follow. Discipline and obsession beat talent and luck every time, because talent without consistency is wasted potential, and luck without preparation is nothing more than a missed opportunity. The world is filled with people who had extraordinary gifts, but never disciplined themselves to sharpen those gifts. They started strong, but when the excitement wore off, they stopped showing up. They had talent, but no structure, no follow-through, no backbone. And then there are those who weren't the most naturally gifted, who didn't have every advantage, but they developed a relentless obsession to grow, to improve, to push their limits day after day. Those are the ones who end up surpassing the talented ones who coast. Obsession is the fuel that keeps the fire alive when talent gets bored. Discipline is the hammer that shapes that fire into results when luck never shows up. Together, they create unstoppable force. Discipline is the art of doing what must be done regardless of how you feel. Feelings are fleeting, they rise and fall like waves, and if you depend on them to dictate your actions, you'll never achieve anything extraordinary. Winners build habits that carry them when motivation disappears. They know that greatness doesn't come from what you do occasionally. It comes from what you do consistently. Discipline means waking up when you don't want to, practicing when no one is cheering, putting in the hours when it would be easier to quit. It means building a system of standards that you never compromise on. Discipline is not punishment, it's freedom, because it frees you from the prison of excuses. It frees you from the weakness of waiting for the perfect mood or the perfect time. When you live with discipline, you no longer ask, "Do I feel like it?" You simply decide, "This is who I am and this is what I do." Obsession is the emotional fire behind discipline. Discipline keeps you steady, but obsession makes you unstoppable. It is that burning desire that consumes your thoughts, that vision that keeps you awake at night, that hunger that drives you to give more than anyone expects. Obsession makes you study harder, train longer, sacrifice deeper. Most people settle for good enough because they lack obsession. They're interested, but they're not consumed. Interest gets distracted. Obsession stays locked in. Interest tries until it gets uncomfortable. Obsession keeps going until it breaks through. That level of intensity is what separates those who dream from those who achieve. You cannot casually pursue greatness. It requires obsession, because only obsession has the power to pull out your highest level of focus, energy, and creativity. Think about the people who changed the world, who redefined industries, who shattered limitations. They weren't simply talented, they were obsessed. They couldn't stop thinking about their vision, they couldn't stop working toward it, they couldn't accept mediocrity in its place. They trained their minds and bodies until the pursuit of mastery became who they were. And in that obsession, they built a discipline that carried them through setbacks and failures. Luck didn't create their breakthroughs, obsession did. Talent may have given them a starting point, but it was discipline and obsession that carved their names into history. Too many people sit back waiting for luck to show up, waiting for opportunities to fall into their laps. But opportunities don't favor the lucky, they favor the prepared. When obsession drives you, you prepare so thoroughly that when the door opens, you're ready to step through it. And if the door doesn't open, you kick it down. The problem is most people fear obsession. They think it's unhealthy, too extreme, too much, so they water down their dreams, they aim for balance, they play it safe. But safety doesn't create breakthroughs. Balance doesn't create transformation. If you want to achieve something extraordinary, you have to be willing to go beyond what is comfortable and acceptable. You have to allow yourself to be consumed by the mission you're chasing. Obsession doesn't mean you neglect your life. It means you elevate your life by aligning it with a higher purpose. It means every decision, every action, every sacrifice serves the mission. And when obsession is partnered with discipline, you become unstoppable because you not only burn with passion, you channel that passion into consistent, structured action that compounds over time. Every day you're faced with a choice: talent or discipline, luck or obsession. Do you rely on what you were given at birth, or do you create who you want to become? Do you wait for the universe to favor you, or do you create your own momentum regardless of circumstances? Discipline and obsession are the great equalizers. You may not be the most talented in the room, but you can be the most disciplined. You may not be the luckiest, but you can be the most obsessed. And when you outwork, outlast, and outfocus everyone else, talent bows to persistence and luck bows to preparation. That's why the disciplined and the obsessed rise to the top, while the talented and the lucky fade away. Discipline and obsession beat talent and luck every time because they are within your control. You don't control the gifts you were born with. You don't control whether luck shows up, but you do control your standards, your hunger, your effort, your focus. And when you take ownership of those, you create a destiny that no amount of talent or luck can deny. True winners transform their identity, not just their actions, because lasting change never comes from surface level adjustments. You can change your habits for a short period of time. You can force yourself to grind for a week or two. You can push yourself through sheer willpower. But eventually, if your identity does not evolve, you will fall back into the same patterns. People fail not because they lack desire, but because they try to change their behavior without changing the way they see themselves. If you still identify as someone who struggles, someone who is inconsistent, someone who is not enough, then no matter how hard you push, your subconscious will pull you back to match that identity. But when you begin to shift who you believe you are, when you create a new standard of self, your actions automatically align with that new identity. True transformation is not doing different things. It is becoming someone different. Most people set goals based on what they want to achieve, but winners focus on who they want to become. There is a massive difference between saying, "I want to run a marathon," and saying, "I am a runner." One is a task, the other is an identity. When you adopt the identity, your actions flow naturally. You no longer need to force yourself to practice because it is who you are. You no longer struggle to stay consistent because consistency is part of your nature. That's why winners don't just chase outcomes, they reinvent themselves. They create a new version of themselves that matches the life they are aiming for. They stop clinging to old labels, old stories, old limitations. They rewrite the narrative they've been living under, and in doing so, they step into a higher level of power. Changing your identity requires courage, because it means letting go of who you used to be. And many people are more committed to their past than to their future. They hold on to the comfort of their old self, even when that self is keeping them stuck. They replay the same stories about why they can't succeed. They cling to the same excuses. They surround themselves with people who validate their limitations. But winners understand that identity is a choice, not a prison. You can decide at any moment to become someone new. You can create new beliefs, new standards, new rituals that reinforce your desired identity. The moment you shift who you are at the core, everything else follows. Actions become effortless because they are no longer in conflict with your sense of self. Discipline becomes natural because it matches the identity you hold. Progress becomes inevitable because your identity pulls you toward it. Think of identity as the thermostat of your life. No matter how much progress you make, if your identity is set at a certain level, you will always find a way to return to it. If your thermostat is set at mediocrity, you might achieve success temporarily, but you'll sabotage it until you return to your comfort zone. If your thermostat is set at struggle, you might rise above for a while, but eventually you'll fall back down. The only way to permanently change your life is to raise the setting of your identity thermostat. Winners decide that mediocrity is no longer who they are. They decide that struggle is no longer their story. They lock in a new standard of identity, strong, disciplined, unstoppable, and their lives rise to match that standard. They don't wait for evidence to believe. They believe first, and then they gather evidence to prove it right. This is why affirmations, visualization, and rituals are so powerful. They are not about pretending. They are about reprogramming. Every time you affirm a belief about yourself, you carve it deeper into your identity. Every time you visualize yourself succeeding, you are rehearsing that identity in your mind until it feels real. Every time you perform a ritual that aligns with your vision, you reinforce the identity you want to embody. Over time, these actions compound and solidify into who you are. And once something becomes who you are, resistance disappears. Winners don't force themselves to win. They win because it has become part of their nature. They are no longer acting against themselves. They are expressing their true self, but identity transformation is not about ego. It is about alignment. It is not about pretending to be something you're not. It is about uncovering the version of yourself you were always meant to be. Deep down, you already know you're capable of more. Deep down, you've felt that pull toward greatness. The problem is not that you lack the ability. The problem is that you've been living under an old identity that doesn't match your true potential. Winners shed that skin and step into the identity that aligns with their purpose. They decide, this is who I am now, and then they live it fully. The shift is internal first, external second. And that is why their change lasts while others fade back into old habits. When you transform your identity, you don't just change your actions, you change the way you interpret the world. Challenges stop looking like threats and start looking like opportunities. Failure stops feeling like proof of inadequacy and starts feeling like feedback for growth. Discipline stops feeling like sacrifice and starts feeling like self-expression. You no longer have to convince yourself to keep going because persistence is who you are. You no longer have to force courage because courage is who you are. Every victory, every breakthrough, every achievement flows naturally because it is consistent with your identity. This is why true winners focus on becoming, not just doing. Because once you become the person who deserves success, success is inevitable. It's no longer a question of if, it's only a matter of when. Every failure is a stepping stone, not a dead end, because failure carries within it the seeds of wisdom, growth, and resilience that success can never teach on its own. The people who rise to greatness are not the ones who avoided failure, but the ones who learned how to use it. Most people fear failure because they believe it defines them. They think that if they fail, it means they are not good enough, not worthy enough, not capable enough. But winners know that failure is not a definition, it is an event, and like any event it can be studied, understood, and transformed into fuel. Every time you fail, you are handed an opportunity to learn something about yourself, your strategy, your preparation, your mindset. If you take that lesson and apply it, you have not failed. You have advanced. Failure only becomes final when you stop using it as a tool. History is filled with stories of people who faced countless failures before their breakthrough. They were rejected, underestimated, doubted, and ridiculed, but they refused to let those moments stop them. They used each setback as a stepping stone, each rejection as a redirection, each disappointment as a deeper source of determination. While others saw a dead end, they saw a lesson. That perspective is what allowed them to keep moving forward while others quit. The truth is, if you want to achieve anything extraordinary, failure is not optional. It is inevitable. The only question is whether you will let it destroy you or develop you. The difference between those who quit and those who win lies in how they interpret failure. Winners don't see failure as the opposite of success. They see it as part of the process of success. Every time you stumble, you have a choice. You can let the experience break your confidence, or you can let it build your character. Failure reveals the gaps in your preparation, the weaknesses in your approach, the blind spots in your vision. Instead of ignoring them, winners confront them. They ask themselves, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? What is this teaching me that success never could? That mindset transforms failure into a teacher, and the lessons it provides become stepping stones toward mastery. Without those lessons, you might achieve temporary victories, but you will lack the foundation to sustain them. Failure gives you that foundation. It humbles you, sharpens you, strengthens you, and prepares you to carry the weight of the success you are chasing. The fear of failure paralyzes more people than failure itself ever could. Most people don't even attempt to go after what they want because they are afraid of looking foolish, of being judged, of falling short. But the paradox is that avoiding failure guarantees failure of the worst kind. the failure of never knowing what you could have been. Winners understand this. They know that failure is not something to fear but something to embrace, because each failure moves them closer to the truth of what works. They fail forward, using each misstep as momentum to take the next step. And in doing so, they build resilience. They develop the ability to keep moving in the face of obstacles, to stay steady under pressure, to adapt and adjust when things don't go according to plan. That resilience is the real prize of failure, because once you have it, no setback can keep you down for long. Fail also strips away illusions. It reveals who you really are when things don't go your way. Do you crumble or do you rise? Do you make excuses or do you take responsibility? Do you run from the pain or do you use it as fuel? These are the questions failure asks, and how you answer them determines whether you move forward or stay stuck. Winners take ownership of their failures. They don't blame circumstances. They don't blame people. They don't blame luck. They own the results fully because ownership gives them power. If you caused it, you can change it. If you created it, you can recreate it better. This mindset transforms failure from a burden into a stepping stone, because you are no longer at the mercy of events. You are the creator of your response. The greatest gift of failure is that it builds persistence. Success often comes too easily to some people, and when it does, they never develop the grit to keep going when things get hard. Failure forces you to dig deeper, to tap into strength you didn't know you had, to build endurance for the long road ahead. Every failure you endure and rise from makes you tougher, more resilient, more unstoppable. It conditions your mind to understand that setbacks are temporary, that obstacles are part of the journey, that nothing worth having comes without struggle. And once you have tasted failure and survived, you lose the fear of it. You realize it cannot destroy you unless you allow it. That realization is liberating because it frees you to take bigger risks, to pursue bolder dreams, to step into arenas where others are too afraid to go. Failure also fuels creativity. When one path doesn't work, failure forces you to find another. It sharpens your problem-solving skills, stretches your imagination, compels you to innovate. Some of the greatest inventions, breakthroughs, and discoveries were born out of repeated failure. If everything worked perfectly the first time, no one would grow, no one would adapt, no one would evolve. Failure forces evolution. It strips away what doesn't work and pushes you to find what does. Winners know this, and that's why they don't fear experimenting, trying new approaches, and risking mistakes. They understand that each attempt, successful or not, is a stepping stone on the way to mastery. When you look back on your life, it won't be the failures that haunt you. It will be the chances you never took. It won't be the mistakes that break you. It will be the regrets of playing small, of quitting too soon, of never daring to rise after you fell. Failure, when embraced, becomes one of the greatest gifts on your path to winning. It is not a signal to stop. It is a signal to adjust, to grow, to sharpen, to prepare yourself for what's next. Every failure carries a message, and those who listen turn those messages into stepping stones that lift them higher than they ever imagined they could go. Winning is not an event. It's a lifestyle and daily decision, because victory is not something that happens once in a while. It is something that is cultivated moment by moment in the choices you make. Too many people see winning as a single outcome, as holding up the trophy or crossing the finish line, but those moments are only the visible rewards of 1,000 invisible decisions. True winners understand that winning is not about one big event. It is about a pattern of behavior, a way of living that is aligned with excellence, discipline, and resilience every single day. The art of winning is built in the morning, when you choose to get up instead of staying in bed. In the afternoon, when you choose focus instead of distraction. At night, when you choose preparation instead of procrastination. It is the accumulation of these decisions that creates a lifestyle where victory becomes inevitable. Living as a winner means setting standards that are non-negotiable. It means deciding in advance who you are and how you show up, no matter what circumstances arise. When you make winning a lifestyle, you no longer depend on motivation or external conditions to dictate your behavior. You act from identity, from commitment, from choice. Every decision becomes an opportunity to reinforce that identity. Do you take the easy path or the growth path? Do you settle for comfort or do you stretch for progress? Every moment presents that choice, and every choice compounds over time. The daily decision to live as a winner creates momentum, and that momentum becomes a force that carries you further than willpower alone ever could. Many people treat winning like an occasional performance. They show up strong when eyes are on them, when the pressure is high, when the reward is close. But in the quiet moments, when no one is watching, they let their standards slip. They don't realize that true winning is decided long before the spotlight. It's decided in private, in the habits you build when no one is keeping score. Winners live in alignment even when the world isn't watching, because they know integrity with themselves is the foundation of lasting success. When you break promises to yourself, you weaken your belief in your ability to win. When you keep promises to yourself, you strengthen your identity as a winner. Over time, those daily acts of self-trust create a lifestyle where excellence becomes automatic. Making winning a lifestyle also means embracing consistency over intensity. Anyone can give a burst of energy for a short time, but winners understand that true mastery is built through repeated action, day after day, year after year. They don't just push hard once in a while, they show up consistently, building layer upon layer of growth until the results are undeniable. Consistency creates compounding, and compounding creates unstoppable momentum. That's why winners are not obsessed with overnight success. They are obsessed with showing up today, doing the work today, making the decision today, because they know that if they string together enough of those days, success becomes inevitable. Winning is not an event at the finish line. It is the thousand small victories you stack along the way. A lifestyle of winning also requires discipline with your environment. What you consume, who you surround yourself with, the energy you allow into your space, these all influence your decisions. Winners are intentional about their environment. They know that if you surround yourself with people who settle, you will settle. If you fill your mind with negativity, you will think small. If you live in clutter and chaos, your focus will mirror that. So they build environments that reinforce their identity, that support their discipline, that fuel their obsession. They curate the influences around them so that every element of their life points in the direction of victory. It is not about perfection. It is about alignment, about creating conditions that make the daily decision to win easier and more natural. The daily decision to live as a winner is not glamorous, and that's why many people don't commit to it. It often looks boring, repetitive, and simple. It's waking up early, training when tired, reading when distracted, practicing when uninspired, staying disciplined when it feels easier to quit. It doesn't come with applause or recognition in the moment. But winners understand that these unglamorous moments are where victory is truly created. The event, the performance, the recognition, that is simply the harvest. The lifestyle, the discipline, the daily decision, that is the planting, the watering, the cultivating. If you want to reap big, you must sow daily. That is the difference between those who win occasionally and those who win consistently. Winning as a lifestyle also requires emotional mastery. Life will throw setbacks, challenges, and disappointments at you. If you let emotions dictate your choices, you will never sustain victory. Winners don't deny their emotions, but they don't let them control their behavior. They may feel fear, but they still choose courage. They may feel tired, but they still choose effort. They may feel doubt, but they still choose action. The daily decision to win is about choosing the behavior that aligns with your vision, not the behavior that matches your mood. Over time, this builds emotional strength, and that strength becomes a powerful advantage. While others get knocked off course by every setback, winners stay steady because their choices are rooted in commitment. Not feelings. What makes winning a lifestyle powerful is that it becomes who you are, not just what you do. When you identify as a winner, the daily decisions no longer feel forced. They feel natural because they are consistent with your identity. You no longer ask yourself if you should show up. You show up because it's who you are. You no longer struggle to push forward. You push forward because it's who you are. Winning stops being an occasional outcome and becomes the rhythm of your life. This is why true winners stand out. They aren't chasing victory, they are living victory. They embody it in the way they think, the way they act, the way they carry themselves every single day. The art of winning is not about waiting for one event to prove yourself. It is about proving yourself in the countless small decisions you make, in the invisible battles you win, in the consistent standards you refuse to compromise. Winning is not out there somewhere in the future. It is right here in the present, in the way you choose to live this moment. When you make that choice over and over again, when you commit to that lifestyle without compromise, you build a momentum that cannot be stopped. Winning is not something you hope for someday. It is something you practice every day with every choice until it becomes the only way you know how to live.